MSP Waves. We are a streaming interactive broadcast station coming to you live out of the Minnow Support Project and Peace, Abundance, and Liberty Network. Today is the Steem Witness Forum, and so we're going to be joined by members of the Steemit team. Steemit is the company that developed the blockchain. They also operate the website steemit.com, which is a blogging portal and interface to the Steem blockchain. So I'm excited to go have a couple of their team members come on and speak with us today. That'll be Andrarchy, Eli Powell, and Justin. So these folks are going to go talk with us today and kind of get us up to date. Presumably we're talking about SMTs and communities, but we'll see what else is going to be on the docket. And then that will presumably last for maybe the next 20 to 30 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe 30 to 45 minutes, something like that. And then we'll switch gears in the second half of the show and we'll do like the peer witness forum where the elected witnesses and consensus witnesses will get a chance to go talk about some of the projects that they're working on, some of the things that we should consider for the chain, and maybe future hard forks. You know, everybody's been waiting for SMTs and communities for a while. Maybe it's time to start talking about what comes after that. What else does the chain need? Is it scaling? Is it marketing? Is it whatever? I mean, it's time to go hear opinions on other folks. So anyways, Eli, I was able to go hear you just a minute ago. If you can unmute and say hi to the audience.
Yes, hello, and what a great audience you brought today. You never seem to disappoint and bringing a wonderful group of people. So happy to be here and see everyone here.
Yeah, we have tons of lovely folks that like to hang out around the PoundNet Discord server, and there's a lot of hardcore Steemians. I mean, even with markets being in 2-year bears and being really frustrating, there's a lot of people that have still stuck around. There's a lot of people playing Splinterlands. There's a lot of people that are still blogging. You know, there's a lot of development. There's like new games coming. I guess my meme joke is we're not dead yet, in the sort of Monty Python version of that. But I don't know. What's your assessment? How's the state of the chain doing?
And I keep muting, just FYI, I woke up with a cough. So if I mute, that's why. Just wanted to put that out there. So, I mean, I agree with you 100%. That's why we're all still doing everything that we said we were going to be doing this time last year. So to think of, you know, the amount of progress we've made in a year is awesome. And the fact that we're actually talking about a hard fork for SMTs and what's going to come after that even is super exciting. So State of Steemit has been, I guess, since we saw everyone at Steam Fest, me and Christy, our head of operations, it's been mostly, closing up, winding down 2019. And then also I've been working with the team alongside Andrarchy on building out launch strategies for communities, because communities were taking in a phased approach. And at some point we will publish these plans, just kind of fine tuning some different options. But communities is more of a phased approach. So we've got some interesting things that we're considering there, as far as signups, maybe creating an invite system. But that is moving. I wanted to pull up. So as of like January 8th, Roadscape pulled a report that 6.9% of all posts and comments and 12.6% of all payouts. So this is regarding the beta, communities beta. All of that were done on the beta since January, and that was only 10 weeks, and we haven't even announced it really. I mean, we've done some posts, but
yeah, let's back up 1 second. I'm assuming that most of the people that are familiar in the audience, but there are going to be some people that watch this recording that aren't. So before we go into like the details of communities, do you just want to give like a real high level overview of what it is and what it provides and how it's different than what they might have seen before? What are communities?
So communities, think of it, and I know I hate to use this example, but it's the easiest way to describe it is, you know, subreddits. Finally creating a platform where we can have moderators and different responsibilities for people to build a true community. So it's really taken steemit.com to 2.0, and giving people all the authoritative powers, the moderations, to really build your own community. And so you're going to see just a different functionality, different features so that you can hopefully easily come on online and start your community and just build that. And then along with SMTs, which we'll talk about later, being able to launch your own token for your community. So it really is just think of it as a Reddit, subreddits, the ability to bring your community and build that, and all the tools that, regular blogging sites like that have.
Can you give one or two examples of what you think a community that will form or be popular? Give one or two examples of what you think you envision people aggregating to or coming to or using during their kind of daily experience or whenever they're logging into Steemit.
Sure.
What will that look like?
I mean, obviously, I feel like there's going to be a huge crypto community. People wanting to build a community, all things crypto, and just have conversations and discussions and brainstorms, whatever, all about that. And then, hopefully we get into more mainstream. And so it could be photography. It could be dogs. Like it really is, what people, it all depends on who comes over to the site, who we can attract to come over and build our community. I mean, we already have so many, lively ones as it is, but I think staying, in the crypto world, that's going to be a no-brainer. We're talking to partners like HackerNoon, building their community over here. They have a great following. So I think it's really just going to be interesting to see naturally how this thing organically grows. Clearly, we will need to do some marketing to attract more of those mainstream communities. But like I said, hopefully organically, this thing is going to take off.
So how is that going to impact daily Steemians? Like how will my life, I like to blog, or maybe I don't even blog. I'm not like really into crypto. Maybe I'm on Reddit. Like how is the release of communities going to sort of change things for me? What's possible now that wasn't before?
Right. Excuse me. Well, obviously, because you're going to be doing this all built on the Steem blockchain with the opportunity to be rewarded financially via Steem. I mean, that's the whole difference between, us and a Reddit as the inclusive, the financial tools. So like I said, even further down the road, communities being able to fundraise or, whatever, just being able to utilize the crypto space via Steem. That's the whole difference. Being rewarded from a financial perspective for curating good content. Sorry about all this. I really felt fine last night. But yeah, just the financial tools that communities will have and the controls that they'll have on their own communities. We want people to be able to have the freedom to monitor their content and just really provide whatever it is they want their community to have that experience with the financial inclusion. Hopefully, obviously things are a lot different when we're not in the market that we're in. I mean, I wasn't here when, the price was over $3. So I don't know what that experience was like for people, but I can only imagine. I've gone back and, seen the different payouts of different blogs, and, the one makeup blogger who I think she made like $30,000. I don't think we ever saw her again after that. But I mean, the stories can be incredible, and what people can do with communities, and with or without the price of Steem, I think is really going to be enjoyable for people.
Now I know the main one of the main questions that people are going to want to know is when. So we have communities in beta when, and it's sort of like a limited release. And when do you guys have timelines or expectations on when that sort of comes out of this beta experience and goes into like, the main, when I don't have to go to beta.steemit.com, I go to steemit.com and it already includes all the community's features. Like when do you think it moves from the sort of staging or private beta to a full, this is what Steemit is now?
All right, good question. We definitely have been working on timelines. You know that we're always hesitant to commit to any hard date just because that's never done us well in the past. But what I can tell you, so right now we're in what we're calling soft launch. Basically, it's on the beta. We've been doing testing, we've been adding features. And so one of the things that we're trying to make a decision on is sign up. So because when we move it from beta to mainnet, steemit.com, we're considering possibly, slowing down the sign up process, creating an invite system. So those are some of the things that we're still haven't quite nailed down. But to answer your question, I see things being moved over February 9th. I was hoping it would be early February, but now I would say end of this month looks realistic. And then, doing a hard launch now it would be more towards end of March, early May. But we're basically ready to go. There's just a few things that we need to, as a group, make some decisions on.
What would you consider a hard launch? So it goes on to steemit.com. Maybe that's in late February or early March. Like what would constitute a hard launch to you? How would that then be different?
Good question. So that would be where we would already have established engaging communities that have been, creating content, curating content. So that's the main thing, is like I want to be able to, before we do any hard announcements, marketing efforts, press releases, again, we still are in the situation of limited funds. And so that's another thing we're thinking about. And I know there's been a lot of talk in the Steem DAO, but marketing that's crucial. And so I really do believe with an invite system and with some, we have a great email database. We're just going to have to be very creative. It's not like Instagram did billboards across the US announcing this great new app, or TikTok did TV ads. Like, it just happens organically. If it's good, then the word will get out and it'll take off. So what we need is to have, between now and that hard launch, establish, like I said, engaging communities, folks that are going to be able to onboard new communities. So we feel like at that point, communities should be able to grow on their own. We want the growth, again, to be driven organically by users. I mentioned internal marketing efforts to focus on awareness. I think within the cryptocurrency space, that should be pretty easy for us. But again, hang on. My train of thought. But yeah, before we do any, I want to make sure that communities are seated and that there's content going, and that, we do have a huge database full of email addresses.
Oh, you might have just dropped off there. Eli, try again. Oh, we might have lost Eli for a bit.
It's okay. I can talk for a little bit too.
What's that?
I said I was going to fill in and try to talk for you, but since you're back, go ahead.
Oh. No, I don't know. I don't know what this is, but I apologize. So that.
Oh, she cut out again. All right, Eli, I'm gonna mute you for just a moment here, and let's go let Justin kind of chime in. Justin, do you wanna provide us some thoughts on communities or SMTs and
yeah,
and maybe hold on,
absolutely.
give us like a 1 or 2 sentence introduction too, in case people aren't familiar with who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm Justin Welch, and I'm head of engineering at Steemit. Been with the company for a really long time, since 2016. Close to since day one, but not quite. And that's me.
All right. So what would you want to add about either communities development, communities rollout, or SMT development, or SMT rollout, or even just I'm also happy to go start even higher at, like, what is the state of the Steem blockchain? How is growth and capacity? I don't mean to pigeonhole you into what you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, we can keep talking about communities for a moment. That's a good topic, and I feel like we didn't quite finish it out there. So one thing I was going to add is that we're kind of trying to do a bit of a phased approach, which we've had this public beta for a while, which is part of that phase. One of the interesting problems with communities is that in order for this to really roll out successfully, you have to already have some communities that are built. In other words, they have to be seeded with some content, which is part of why we did it that way. And I think that's been fairly successful so far, with about 15% of Steemians that use Steemit.com are currently using the beta. And that's certainly a higher number than we originally imagined, especially with not much advertisement about that beta being available. So another thing that we want to do as part of these phases, like another thing that we want to work on that ties into communities, is a new user sign-up experience. And that new user sign-up experience will certainly be a whole lot better if there are communities that have good content, and a multitude of them, like different types of categories, different styles of communities. So that way we can point people to those to subscribe to those communities as the first action that they take as soon as they get a new account. And I think that's a really cool thing and something that we've been missing for a long time on Steemit.com.
Yeah, some way to bring people in and have them not be nearly as confused. I mean, I don't think that there's not going to be one solution where everybody looks at this and says, wow, you have solved onboarding, nice job. But, the challenge is something like there's a lot of cryptocurrency jargon, and then there's a lot of jargon that's specific to Steem. And then there's things that you really need to know for just how to operate in this browser that, the biggest hurdle seems to be something like keys versus passwords, of like, how do you get some normie that's been on Reddit for the past 5 years to come to the Steem blockchain, blog here, or sort of do their forum, trolling here, and not be totally confused by why do I have, what happened to my password, and then why do I have 4 keys, and what the hell is the difference between these? And I have this master and this account owner. I'm confused. What are you envisioning to try to make it so that is a less painful experience for a user?
So key handling and teaching new users about how the key hierarchy works is, I suppose, ties into new user experience. But that in itself is quite a big topic. That'll probably have to be solved by itself, aside from what we're talking about now with the new user experience. But that's part of it. In general, we tend to believe, and this is kind of the direction we're going with things, as far as training users to learn how to use the site, the best way to do it is as they need to take those actions. It's absolutely a bad idea to dump new users out into a frequently asked questions document. That probably won't make a whole lot of sense to them, and they're probably not going to read the whole thing. People simply don't have time for that, and the cognitive load is just way too high for something like that. So I think the best thing to do is kind of point people to the things that they need to know as they need to do them. So for example, so the first action they should probably take is subscribe to some communities that they want to view content on, and then start viewing some content on that. And then maybe as they make their first post, maybe there's some little information boxes that pop up and tell them a little about voting and various things like that. I think that's the best way to handle things, especially in 2020. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I've been watching a lot of tutorial development or game development things, thinking through how do I improve Splinterlands, especially because we want to make the new user experience better. And one place that people keep going back to is the Plants versus Zombies sort of tutorial system, which is very much a non-tutorial, which is much more in line with what you're talking about of, he during his talk at the game development conference, he's like, I could name this a tutorial, or I could just simply name it, Why Don't I Kill Myself? And that was the degree that he felt strongly that you shouldn't ever go just make a tutorial section. And he was sharing, do it like you're explaining of, make the user, make the player do some action, but really limit what is available for the different options, so that it's tutorial like in that there's limited choice, but it's not like, why don't you go read a 10-page manual so that you can do this? It's, here's a really limited choice. Why don't you pick from these things, see what you like, and then sort of gradually growing the options and activities that they can partake in.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think we can learn a lot from game development, especially good game development, because in a lot of ways, Steam and Steemit do feel a lot like playing a game and have a lot of the same elements. So it definitely relates. Yeah, and I think the best game tutorials certainly are the ones where you don't even realize that you're playing a tutorial until it's done. It just kind of throws you in there, and you're actually just completely engrossed in the experience at that point while you're learning how to play it. And I think that's definitely the way to do it with modern user interface design for websites too. I think the two things are definitely the same.
So the talk I referenced, I just linked into chat, so maybe you could save that and watch it later.
I've actually watched that one.
Perfect. Great. I mean, that's so I've seen multiple people from I think I saw it from Hearthstone and from Magic the Gathering when they were explaining, when we were building our tutorial, we looked at this and tried to mimic the lessons that they were providing. So, yep. So I don't consider myself an expert in this, but the people that I think have a lot of experience, especially with complicated games and things that are tricky to understand, point to that. So maybe that will be helpful. And it looks like Eli's trying to talk again. Hello,
yeah,
you there?
One thing I wanted to add also that I mentioned we're considering an invite system, and I think that one of the key selling points for doing an invite system is that you have ambassadors. Someone has invited you to this platform. That person helps onboard. I remember when Gmail, someone invited me to Gmail. I was like, what is this? How do I do it? I mean, obviously it was super easy. Didn't need anyone to show me, but that is certainly a good way to, hey, get your friends, come on board. If you have any questions, let me know. I think that would sort of, alleviate a lot of the onboarding issues.
Can you think of it like an affiliate system with that? Is there an incentive that could be offered? I mean, maybe it is just, post here and we can vote you and you get some payment. But I've kind of poked my head into, are there referral systems? Are there ways that we can incentivize people to be here? Or I guess incentivize people to recruit? Is there a way? Have you guys kind of thought through that of what that might look like? Or
okay, I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
We're having a rough technical time with Eli. Justin or Andrarchy, are you guys there?
Still here.
I think I'll chime in on this one. You can hear me all right?
Yeah, you're coming in beautifully.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know what is happening now. All of a sudden, I'm having issues.
Yeah, Eli, I'm going to let Andrarchy take a turn here. So let's let.
Okay, thanks.
Go for it, Andrarchy.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of speak on behalf of Roadscape to this point, and I think it's important to note that a lot of this work that we're talking about is work that he's doing and he's road mapping as far as how we're rolling out communities, how we're developing that product, and when we're going to shift attention to the invite system. And I know that it's very important to him that we move away from this idea that every behavior needs to be incentivized through tokens. and move more towards building a great experience, so that when people sign into steemit.com, that they can connect with people and content that really gets them excited and makes them happy and makes them laugh. And we are, speaking of, I can at least speak for Tim and I, or Roadscape and I, that we both believe very much that if we can do that we can bring people to the site and connect them to people that they're going to really like and content that they're really going to like, they're going to come back and they're going to tell their friends and family about it. And if you introduce tokens and incentivization into that process too early, to quote Roadscape, it gets really dark really fast, and you see behaviors that you actually don't want to see inside social applications. Money-driven behaviors being prioritized over social, honest, authentic social interactions.
So when you're talking about making a good experience, are there things that is this just communities related, or is this getting into some future kind of add-ons to the site, or like what do you guys see as sort of what will change, or what are the priorities for making in terms of the front end to steemit.com to make it that a higher quality, better user experience? Like what are you guys focused on, or what do you think are the priorities? And then is that communities, or is that something in addition to communities? What's the vision there?
I'll definitely pass this along to Justin to go into the details. I just want to make what I think is a incredibly important point, which is that communities is only the first product that shows off a tiny percentage of the possibilities that are enabled through HiveMind. HiveMind can be used to implement, in my mind, a number of features on top of the Steem blockchain. It unlocks an infinite number of possibilities with respect to the features that you can add to the Steem blockchain. I can't think of a feature. To give you an idea, I literally cannot think of a feature that HiveMind cannot be used to add to the Steem blockchain. And so communities is just the first exploration of that. And if we constrict our imaginations to solely iterating on communities, we will not explore 99% of the capabilities of HiveMind. So yeah, we're going to continue to iterate on communities. That's definitely the short-term roadmap, but I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that HiveMind is so much more than communities in my mind. Justin, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Second layer solutions are certainly the way to go in order to add features to Steem quickly at this point. It makes a ton of sense, and it's really enabling us to build this out without the headaches of adding these features directly into Steem itself. And as we've seen with other products like Splinterlands, for example, it mostly works kind of the same way. We're using the blockchain to store and then manipulate data that's stored on it outside of the original blockchain software. And it really enables you, it's true, to do pretty much anything that you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of layer 2 stuff. It seems like from development, it's a lot easier to, take a database and, show different properties on a front end than it is to like, hey, let's totally rearrange this database that everybody is using.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So and as another thing to touch on too, communities has kind of become the word that we use for the next iteration of steemit.com. And it actually kind of includes quite a bit more than just the communities feature. A lot of other features that people have been waiting for, wanting, or wishing for a long time are already part of the initial community spec and already have been developed. Like, for example, notifications and better search features, those types of things too. So when we say communities, we're really talking about the experience as a whole. and not just the subreddit style aspect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, those are two of the biggest features that I've heard since I've been here. People saying, I want this, I want that. Those are, you just listed the two. And so to hear those two big ones already being part of that, that sort of rollout of V2 of Steemit, which seems like it's a lot more modular in terms of what can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a feature set standpoint, it could be thought of as kind of a version 2, but I probably wouldn't want to call it a version 2 until more of a redesign is completed. Like right now, this is all the features, and yes, the design is a little bit different. It's definitely filled out quite a bit more and a little bit easier to use. But beyond that, I'm sure a redesign will probably be in the works at some point too. So, and that's probably when we'd really want to start calling it a V2.
All right, so it's still a little bit too much in development to be a complete V2, but that sounds exciting. I know, my brain got used to it pretty quickly, but I know that not everybody's in love with the layout of Steemit and what Steemit.com looks like, and doesn't think it provides the best social media experience. So seeing what other options can happen would be exciting to me. And in particular, one thing I'd hope for is like skins, because I like, just my experience with this is that so much of this stuff is so subjective. This is what I like. This is what makes a good experience for me. And that could be totally different than what makes a good experience for you. So seeing how people could make different layouts or skins, or sort of like have a different display for Steemit, that, maybe there's themes, or maybe there's different ways to kind of put this stuff together that I get to choose, so that I can have, like some of the sites use more like a Pinterest style, and my brain just gets a little overwhelmed by that, but I know a lot of people really like it. So I think just having options of how I want to display this information could go a long way to making people feel like I can create a tailored custom experience that really benefits benefits me, saves me time, and makes this a really pleasurable experience.
Yeah, I think options are certainly great, but we do have to be careful of how many options we're putting in front of users. As long as those options are not like just in the forefront, and we're increasing the cognitive load on people trying to get them to figure out what options they want to select. As long as we avoid that, I think options are definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like skins. Here are some skins that Steemit develops. Here are some skins that the community's developed. This one looks more like Reddit. This one looks more like Pinterest. This one looks more like classic Steam. This one looks more like Facebook. I mean, I'm not the visual designer guy, but I know that people want to be able to view this in different ways. So if there are convenient ways to, click a button and see a different view, in all these situations, you're still really viewing the same data. It's all coming from the Steem blockchain, or all coming from HiveMind, but just how we view it, and what's emphasized, and sort of the design, look, and feel, having a couple skins for that, I think could really help make people feel like they have an interface that works for them.
It's a neat idea. It's definitely something that could be explored later.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about communities. Maybe we'll take the next 15 minutes. I'm presuming that you would want to talk. The next topic would be SMTs, but I don't want to force that. But if you guys feel like you'd like to have a discussion about that, I would welcome. We have 15 minutes. That would be the topic I'd suggest, but I'm open to whatever you guys want to discuss.
We certainly can. I'm okay with that. It certainly makes sense, since this is a witness forum that we're doing today, that we would discuss the Steem blockchain itself. So I'm happy to do that. I'd say the state of SMTs at this point. I think we've mostly communicated the state that we're at this point. We've felt really good about the testing that's going on. We've had quite a few people helping out with that testing, and we certainly appreciate that. While we'd love to have even more people testing, I'm happy it's not 2 people, Fred. I know we had this in the last chat that we brought up, and you made me list the 5 to 8 names I think I came up with of people helping. So I'm happy to try to remember those names if we need those. But yeah, it's going very well. We've the good news is we have discovered some bugs, and we fixed those bugs and continued to roll out new test nets as we've discovered those things. And that's part of what this whole process is for, so that we can actually discover those bugs now, so they don't pop up on the main chain launch later.
Okay. So when are we at the point where we are thinking about a firmer date? Are we still in, bug testing mode? Like how, normally what do you see as like the next steps? Maybe if they're not even dates, but what are your milestones for this project before it kind of, with the last one being enters production?
Yeah, so there are still a few things that we want to test internally for sure, and we're going through the list of those things currently. There are a few things to wrap up also with the SMT wizard, because we feel that is really pertinent to the success of an SMT's launch, is for people to be able to create them and use them easily. Client libraries was another thing that we're wrapping up. I know we had updated Steem and Steem.js. I think there's a few others that we want to tend to potentially, if we can, before the launch. I think we're getting pretty close to being able to tag a release candidate. And then shortly after that, we can probably tag an actual release, which would likely give us 30 to 60 days from that point before a hard fork date. So we're close. We're getting real close. It's real exciting. I'm really happy to see progress on this.
I guess if I had one sort of big question, do you think that this thing will get a hard fork in before Bitcoin halves, or do you think it would be after that?
I would hope that it's before. I think that's definitely our goal, is to try to reach that, but I also don't want to push it. If there are things that we need to still do before having a successful launch, we would certainly do those. So I wouldn't want to set that date as like a requirement to hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really reasonable answer.
It's like, yeah, we would like to, but will we? Maybe.
Yep.
Just to be completely honest about it.
No, that's fair. Eli and Jarky, are there other things that you guys would like to add about SMTs?
Oh, not really.
Are there other topics that the folks from Steemit would like to cover?
I think the nice thing about the current situation that we're in is that finally we're able to just focus on delivering communities in the way we want to deliver them, and deliver SMTs in the way we want to deliver them. The testnet's out, the features are set. It's just about making sure that we execute on all the things. I mean, a year ago, we said that we were going to do a bunch of stuff, and now we're at the 10-yard line, and so it's really just about getting from the 10-yard line to the touchdown zone. So I've been watching a lot of Last Chance U lately, so I'm all about the football metaphors.
Okay.
But there aren't a whole bunch of other updates. It's like we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do what we've all been waiting for.
Justin, other sort of general thoughts you'd like to add?
As far as other things that we could discuss, I know another hot topic lately has been the potential change to the 4-week power down. I know we had 2 posts about that recently, so we can certainly discuss that a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it. That'll be I'm betting that will show up in the next 10 minutes as the witnesses talk about that as well. But what are your...
I'd love to hear their thoughts too. I think we kind of know at this point, though. Yeah, it seems like, and that's kind of why we put that post out there, is we weren't sure that there really was like overwhelming support for that change at this point. And I think after those two posts that we made, we still feel the same way, that it's kind of divided. It's a little 50-50. So that being the case, even though that in itself would be a really simple change, we wouldn't want to do anything that could be seen as contentious or people might be divided or split on with the SMT hard fork. We want the SMT hard fork to go smoothly, of course. So it probably wouldn't make sense to make that kind of change in this upcoming hard fork. With that being said, though, it's our belief that something a little more complicated, and I hate to say that in relation to Steem because people say it's already complicated enough, but I think that allowing people to actually pick that lock-in time is probably a better way to go about it, and something definitely to be explored for a later hard fork. And I think it'd be much more likely that we get overwhelming support for a feature like that than to just go ahead and reduce the power downtime, especially seeing as how that could have unforeseen economic ramifications.
Okay. Andrarchy or Eli, either of you want to chime in on power downtime? Hearing none. Any other? I'm happy to go up for another 9 minutes to the top of the hour here. If you guys have any other topics you'd like to talk about, share, or if you have questions for the audience, if you have requests from the audience, you're welcome to share them. I have, if the audience has questions, I would be happy to go try to moderate some discussion from the audience to Steemit. And I guess if I have one question of my own for Steemit, and particularly for Justin, I think Steem's going to be in a unique position. Some of my posts of late have really focused on scalability and in the ability for sort of in the down markets, it's how can you survive if your token goes to very low values? Will your network still operate? Are you still there? And then the next step, I'm an optimist almost at all times. So I'm sort of looking at the price of Bitcoin and thinking, wow, that looks like that's going to do well. I think it will carry over to the alts. If the alts start doing well and lots of people come back and they find communities and they find SMTs, and let's look at like the best case scenario. Is that still the best case scenario? Is the chain still going to be okay? Are we still going? Is there enough bandwidth in terms of block sizes and just how much can be put into each block and how many transactions and users? Are we set to scale?
I think we're in a much better place than most, if not all, other blockchains at this point. There's always room for more scalability. We could spend years on that process and eventually get it running on a Raspberry Pi with minimum RAM and super fast. And but I think at this point in time, we've really accomplished what we wanted to in terms of scalability for right now. Which is quite a lot. And again, I'll say it, I think we're in a much better position than almost all, if not any other blockchain at this point. Yeah. So I'm happy to say that. So when we implemented Hard Fork 20, like one of the thoughts was that the resource credit system should do a nice job of reflecting the physical limitations of the hardware. Like, do you have a sense of, just how much this chain should scale? How many more users? How many more transactions? Could we do as many as EOS is doing now? Could we do more than EOS? Would we still function? Like, what? Do you have any thoughts on just how big this thing can get before, like, the witnesses and the development teams would really have to address? Again, like, hey, some aspect isn't scaling well. So I didn't come to this discussion with those exact numbers that you're wishing for. But the short answer is we can handle a lot more than we're handling right this moment. I feel like we're at fairly minimal capacity right now on the Steem blockchain, and that's with a ton of things going on. We still have, I haven't looked at Blocktivity lately, but we're usually pretty high up on the list as far as the number of blockchain transactions, and we can do a whole lot more than that. So,
do you, let's put it in. You can tell me to shut up on this, but maybe like, do you think it's an order of magnitude? We could do 10 times more, 100 times more, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million. Like, do you have any? Just if you had to ballpark it.
So I'm not comfortable giving you even a ballpark on that.
Fair enough.
Unless that's the type of thing I'd much rather discuss with the team before we throw out a number of what we're comfortable in saying. My gut tells me that it's way more than 10 times, though.
Okay.
Way more.
Well, that would be. I know we don't do these witness forums too frequently these days, but the next time I get you on air, I hope that I could ask you that question and you could provide an answer that you feel comfortable sharing. Like, even if I know you might have a personal answer, but
I promise you that Michael's the guy that we're going to go to answer that question, and he's never going to give you an answer that's anything different than that's actually too hard to predict. You're looking for too precise of an answer to a too difficult projection to make. There's too many variables. There's too many unknowns. Justin's answer is probably very close to the best we're ever going to be able to do. Justin, what do you think about that? Right? It's not like there's going to be a measure.
It is something that's really hard to put an exact number on. That is very true.
Okay. Well, all right. We have a couple minutes left. Are there closing thoughts that the Steemit team would like to provide? What do you want us to leave with? What do you want us to be talking about? I don't know. How would you like to close up your dedicated portion of this forum?
So I want to just wrap that up because Marky's saying right now, like, do some tests to see how high we can get transactions per second. The thing is with those transaction per second tests, there's so much more to it because, not every transaction is created equal. And especially on a multi-use chain like Steem, where different transactions could be all types of things and different sizes. What is that for? Like the minimum transaction size? It's hard to really put a number on that. And that's kind of why. It depends on what we're really doing with the chain. And less so much just a number of transactions. It might make more sense on a chain where a transaction is only one certain thing. But in the case of Steem, it's just not.
Well, let's move away from that for just a second because I do want to close this out. Are there final thoughts of what Steemit would like to leave the community with? What should we know? What should we be thinking about as we sort of I don't know. I guess my next time horizon is between now and the halving or halvening. So we got what do you want us thinking about, focused on, or talking about over the next couple months here?
I would say get on the beta site, start contributing content to it, and start giving feedback about what we can do to make it better. That's, I think, the single most important thing people could do to help us out right now. Because we want to get to a position as fast as we can where we can tell people to come to when we move that live, when we move that to steemit.com, what we'll be saying is, this is what we want everyone to see. This is the first thing we want people to see when they get exposed to steemit.com and when they get exposed to the Steem blockchain, is all these great communities and all the great content in there. But in order to make that happen, we need the community in there making great content on the beta site.
Is that still password protected, or is that open now on the beta?
That is open.
Okay. Well, Eli, Justin, any final thoughts from you guys?
I'm good.
Just SMTs if you got the skills.
Yeah. So there we go. I guess the final request here is let's get on to beta.steemit.com and let's get on to the testnet and test some SMTs. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to unlock a couple server mutes here. So Acidio, anybody that I can see in here that's a top 20 witness, I'm going to remove from the server mute that is automatically applied here. I'm going to go, I guess, Howell I've taken off to, Jarvie, he's Steam Peak, Marky, taken off, Dracos, where did Dracos go? I guess I lost Dracos. Cervantes, I can take them off. Swoop, Real Wolf, take that, and then Matt. And so, hey Matt, you're on I just unmuted you, so you're maybe you can any of the top 20. If you guys can switch to push to talk, that would be cool. And then if there are moderators in here that can go sort of mark those top 20 with the on-air MSP Waves DJ role, that would be helpful. So, and then Eli's typing in, I just want to say thank you all for the continued support and that we are really in a great position, whether prior to having it or not. Thanks, everyone. So, all right. So why don't let's go do, I know this might get a little bit repetitive, but maybe we can try some, maybe we can try just a couple brief introductions. So if there's any of the witnesses that want to go give like a brief introduction of themselves or their projects, now would be a great time to go sort of raise your hand, say hi, talk into the mic. Let's check if we can hear you. And then you are welcome to go sort of share. Let's get like brief introductions and then we can move from there.
Should I go first?
Go for it, Matt.
All right. I'm Matt, Yabap Matt, Yabap P Matt, or Jabop Mott if you were at Steamfest 3. So the main thing that I work on with the majority of my time is Splinterlands. Agrode and I co-founded that, and I spend the majority of my time on that. Aside from that, I kind of keep that separate in my mind from my witness responsibilities. So from the witness perspective, I kind of just try to focus on like what things I feel are missing. What tools, services are missing from the blockchain that we can create. So one of them that we built, myself, Agrode, and Studkev, was the Steem keychain browser extension, because that was one of the things where Steem is very focused on websites and integrating with websites and web applications. So it just seemed very odd to me that there was no browser extension that could be used to manage keys. So we made that, which, personally I think is really helpful, and I think a lot of people like it too. And then, the next thing we focused on was the Steem Engine platform, which was, I kind of noticed that there were a lot of people trying to make their own tokens on Steem before smart media tokens were available, but they were all working on separate systems that all work differently, and you don't get any of the network effects that would make things successful that way. So we worked with Harpagon in this case to build one common system where everyone could make their tokens, so that, again, tools like Keychain or sites like SteamPeak or whatever could easily integrate all the tokens immediately, and you get that network effect. And then we took that to the next level where we basically implemented a soft consensus version of the smart media token proof of brain protocol. So people have been using that in the tribes, as they're called, long before SMTs themselves were available. And so, we're still very excited for SMTs and for that to be on the base chain. But, I just look for ways that we can kind of provide tools and services that people want, either that Steem isn't planning to provide or that aren't available yet.
Frederica, Howell, Jarvie, Pigarko or the Real Wolf? Do any of you want to kind of introduce yourself and talk about what you've been up to?
Sure, I guess I'll do that.
All right, go for it,
So I'm
Howell.
Ho. Sorry, I'm outside, so you may hear some outside noises. But yeah, I'm Ho or Martin Lees. I've been on Steem for 2 years now, mostly working on SteamPress, a WordPress extension that basically leverages Steem. And yes, nowadays we've been working with that with Frederica, and also I've been working on the core Steem blockchain, namely testing the SMTs, but also doing a bit of development work here and there to basically fix the bugs that I find. So yeah, that's about me.
All right. Jarvie, Real Wolf.
If you can hear me,
Yeah,
I'll go.
You sound great, Jarvie.
All right. So Steam Peak, there's a couple of us. So Asgarth does a lot of the technical side. I do a lot more of the, I guess, the social media and design and ideas sort of stuff. And we work on that. We also work on a Peak Monsters. And what we've done recently on Steam Peak is also created a beta site people could use to try out communities. And we've got a few other things that we're working on there. And our push is trying to make that sort of intuitive website. So worked on that bit. Obviously, a lot more to go to make it intuitive enough for someone that doesn't even know anything about crypto, let alone how everything that we do works.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Do we have either Murky, Cervantes, or Real Wolf? Either of you guys want to chime in? Sort of do a brief introduction?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Real Wolf.
Hello. I have to use right now the automatic voice activation because I can't get to work the other one, but I try to not create any noise.
All right, no worries.
Okay. I'm the Real Wolf. I'm on Steam for a bit over 2 years now. And I'm currently primarily keeping my current infrastructure intact. This includes steamapps.com, which is a website that is hosting or creating data around apps and dApps on Steam, which is then being used by other websites such as stateofthedapps.com and others. On top of that, I've created multiple tools that witnesses can use for their everyday work. And last but not least, I'm trying to be as active as I can in discussions around the future of Steam. For example, the 4 weeks power down proposal. I've been quite verbal around my opinion on it, and I'm trying to be as open as possible because on the one hand it's good, but on the other hand it also brings some downsides, and I try to bring as much openness into it. And on top of that, I've been in the past year, I haven't been around, I haven't been as active as I've been before that, or maybe the last half a year, but that's because I've been working on improving my knowledge so I can bring even more value to Steam. And yeah.
Great. Marky, Cervantes, do you guys want to share anything?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in great. How are things?
Hi. How are you? So, yes, I'm Pablo Cervantes. As you know, we have been already around for a couple of years. I think we created our Cervantes account in July 2016, and since then we have been at the beginning backing up the network, and now we are at the top witness position since a couple of months. Yes, and we have them mainly two activities. As you know, the one is maintaining an Spanish-speaking community, and we are curating. So we have a group of manual curators. So we have been always manually curating the network, even before the AIP times. We are still keeping manually curating the Spanish post. We have a good trail, and we have keeping also a good set of yes, of skills to try to fight plagiarism and to try to be as equal in terms of distribution of the stake as far as we can. So trying to keep the community alive with several activities in terms of shows, radio shows, sport communities, and so on. Trying to educate people, onboard people, and on so this community part, and then of course myself, I'm computer scientist, and I'm in charge of all the technical part of the witness. So I'm maintaining infrastructure, and now I'm also quite active on my side in testing the SMTs hard fork. So just before we test, I was trying to create a couple of SMTs and experimenting with the APIs, and I have not found any bug right now, so I'm not bit lucky enough, which is a good sign. But let's see. We will keep trying to put some stress on the network until we can explode it. And yeah, that's it.
Sweet. Marky, Frederica, either of you guys here able to speak?
Hey, it's Marky Mark. How are you doing?
Go for it, Marky. How are things?
Good.
Give us a little introduction of who you are and what you do.
I've been here for a couple of years, since July 2017, I believe it was. I've focused a lot on the anti-abuse and spam plagiarism and farming type of things. I built the global blacklist that's used by over 50% of the dApps on Steem. It's now integrated into the beta site as well. If you go to beta, you'll see that the users and the post and even the comments are tagged with what blacklists they're on. And that's where I focus a lot of my time. I also do a lot of things regarding engagement, and I'm working on some things for onboarding. I think those are the two things that are most critical right now. So that's primarily where my focus has been.
Alrighty. I haven't, Frederic, it seems like he can type, but I haven't been able to hear him talk, so I'm going to assume that he's a no. I can share, I'm Aggroed. I'm one of the witnesses here as well. I've been here for just over 3 years. I have a bunch of different projects. Keychain I worked on, Steem Foundation. We have a website that we're planning on rolling out pretty soon. If you would like to go help me with some marketing and sort of design of the website and what we say about Steem, I would welcome that. Work a lot on Splinterlands. That's my primary gig, and making sure that, like for example, we just rolled out a Steem or a brand ambassador program for that. So we have 30 applications for people that want to sort of spread the gospel of Splinterlands to game stores, and I'll be coordinating that and working with all those people to get the word out. And you know, each one of those Splinterlands accounts is a Steem account, so looking to grow the chain there. I've been putting an enormous amount of time over the last week or two into Steem Engine, really trying to go turn that not only into here you can have your tokens and exchange them. Okay, now you can build your tribes. Okay, now we have NFTs, and the sort of last step to me is taking those NFTs and us building a marketplace and also allowing others to build marketplaces. I'm really trying to make it so that you can get some NFTs and go list physical goods, digital goods, just have a listing service, maybe put up some financial products, and have all of that stuff stored on a communal blockchain, which, you know, for a marketplace seems really, really busy. But then what you do is you sort of build your own unique marketplace, and you take a subset of those and say, I'm going to build the marketplace just around selling sneakers or sandals based off of what is available on the Steem blockchain, what NFTs people have put up there. So really trying to make it so that I think marketplaces are like the biggest business that you can make, and the only thing bigger than a marketplace is sort of a marketplace platform where people can build marketplaces on your platform. And that's what I'm trying to turn Steam Engine and the Steem blockchain into, is one giant marketplace, kind of like a D Amazon and a D Fiverr and a D Freelancer all kind of put together. So we have some of the mock-ups for that starting. So I want to go share that. And then I've worked on the delegation committee too. That's a little stalled while we wait for some key management issues, but that hasn't gone away. It's just taking longer than what we would have hoped. But hopefully that stuff will start coming around and we can get the projects into funding status soon. So that's some of the stuff that I'm working on. I guess unless there's any other witness that wants to chime in, or maybe they can do this as we go. But so we're at sort of this neat stage. Maybe I'm nuts, but it does look like crypto is set to rally some. If with the halving or the halvening approaching, as you kind of look around, what do you guys think are the most critical needs of the chain? Like what do you think needs to get done around here, so that our activity is higher and that there's more businesses and communities here? Like what do we need to do to bring up the price of Steem? And what are your priorities for us as a group? And that's open to any of the witnesses. And of course, people are welcome to chime in the chat. Yeah, Frederick, I'll give you an unmute here. Yeah, go for it.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Hello, Frederica. Why don't you give yourself a quick introduction and then tell us what you think the priority ought to be for the chain.
All right. Hello, everyone. I first stumbled upon Steem almost 3 years ago. I know time goes quickly, Hobo, but it's almost been 3 years, I know, where I first started writing science articles while I was still working at the space agency. My background is as an economist, and so Hovo, who's the technical guy, is the technical person in the SteamPress team, but I tend to look more on the economic side, the tokenomics, strategy, and growth, both for SteamPress, but also when I participate in conversations regarding Steem. I would first like to just echo a little bit what Jabba P. Matt and the Revolve said. First, what Jabba Matt said, that he does look at Splinterland as being his witness. I mean, me and Hobo, we also try to think of ourselves as more than just a SteamPress plugin. I mean, we make contributions to Condenser. We've both been very active in the communities, beta, and also in conversations like these. And also, I think the Real Wolf said it quite well in terms of being active in these conversations is something that I think we would do more of on-chain with a dedicated forum or community for witnesses, because I think there's been a lot of great people on Steem coming with good ideas, but it tends to pop up in a flash and then go away in a flash as the trending algorithm changes. Where I feel like we need to make better use of one of the main selling points of our blockchain, which is the immutable history of progress, so that we can build bits and pieces or lay blocks upon blocks of progress. So when we talk about post-communities, post-SMT Steem, I would love just to see a more strategic framework hosted by witnesses and top stakeholders around allowing discussions first about what ought to be priorities, what are the problems most worth solving, and then inviting the talent that we have here on Steem to make good contributions to it. And I think that's a starting point that we need to have, because we can all say marketing, we can all say this and that, but if it's just small, fractured, I'm tempted to say decentralized efforts, then it doesn't pack the same punch as if we can have a more structured approach where we, set a target, set something we want to achieve, and then do it more slowly over time. So that's both an introduction and I hope answer to the question.
Alrighty. Any of the other witnesses want to sort of tackle what priority do we need to have, and what should we be focused on?
Yeah, I would like to quickly respond to Frederica on the point regarding the discussions around Steem. I very much agree, and I'm not sure if you haven't seen that, but I've created a Hiveman community. I haven't actually publicly advertised it already. I wanted to do that. I haven't come around it. But the idea was to, or as Frederica said, to have a community or space where we can talk about important topics, because I often have the feeling that important conversations are usually not happening on chain. I mean, they're also happening on chain, but also not. And this is not because we as witnesses or other people involved don't want our opinion to be seen, but simply because I think it's a bit simpler to use other mediums. And I hope that Steemit is becoming more advanced. I mean, it is becoming more advanced with the beta. But yeah, I've linked the community inside the chat. Or if you're listening to it, then the Hive is 6 times 1. Also 111 Yeah.
All right. Other folks, what do you think the priority needs to be? Jarvie, Marky, Matt.
Yeah, I could talk
Go for it,
on
Matt.
that. I think we've got the technology side pretty much covered. I would say even without SMTs and all this stuff, but that's great. So I think definitely after that we don't need to add anything else, as far as I can think of, to the core Steem blockchain. And I think the whole focus needs to be on the apps and just really getting people to use the apps and the user experience. I feel like I like to use Justin Sun as an example, and I know a lot of people don't like Tron, but what he's doing, where he's using his resources and going out and just buying up, platforms that have a lot of users, from BitTorrent to most recently DLive, and just putting them on his chain. Like it at the end of the day, it won't matter as much, what the technology is. Like, all those people aren't going to care about all these little nitpicks that people have about Tron. Like, they just copy the technology that they need to make it work, and they go out and they just figure out how to get the people onto the platform. And if we don't do that, I feel like no matter how great the Steem blockchain is, we'll eventually lose out to someone who does that, right? So someone else will just copy our technology, which is all open source, not that difficult to do, and they'll just do a better job of getting all the people to use the apps on their platform. And then Steem will die off in that case, because the network effect kicks in. If everyone's using that platform, more people will want to use it instead of Steem. So we need to do stuff like that. We need to figure out. I hope Splinterlands might be a way that could happen, but there's tons of other opportunities to just go out and kind of, it's sort of a fake it till you make it thing. You just figure out how to make something really big and exciting happen on here that get people to wake up. And it doesn't have to be even to know about Steem or crypto or any of that stuff, but just get people to look at it and be like, I want to sign up for this app, and get a serious number of people using it. Even if not a single one of them buys one Steem, it'll just, if there's a lot of people using some apps on the Steem platform, more people will come, and that will eventually lead to the investors looking into it and an increase in price. So that's the type of thing I really would love to see focus on. And then from a development perspective, I would want the focus to be on the tools to build those things easily. HiveMind is great, but I think we can do a lot more. It exists, but then there should be, easy tools and integrations for different languages to just quickly spin up different types of apps, so we can just have the most shots at that big mainstream app happening here.
All right. Real Wolf, Marky, Cervantes, Jarve? What do we need to focus on?
I think regarding to Tron, it's a bit of a different model because Tron, when you think about it, on the one hand, it's a decentralized, but on the other hand, it's also very centralized in the regards to that Justin Sun is the big image of it, and we had something like this in the past with Ned, but now since he's faded into the past, we don't have it, which is good on the one hand, but bad on the other hand. It's good because it gives us more leverage on being decentralized, because we don't have just one person being the face of it. But on the other hand, it's more difficult to have a real plan of doing things because we have to talk with everyone. There isn't just one person who's like, okay, I will just do this right now. No. We have to maybe create a proposal and then we have to talk about it, and that is good, but it also takes time. So I would like to have tools, maybe even on Hive-Mind, that helps witnesses or people in general, stakeholders, to have more efficient talks around things we want to change or ideas we want to have implemented. I mean, we have now the SPS, and the SPS is very useful, and as far as I think there's even an initiative about having people marketing Steem for some rewards via the proposal system. And I think those are actions we really need to take right now, because we don't have a Ned or a Justin in front of Steem. We have just a very diverse group of people.
Other folks?
All right, I'll go now. I would love to see... I love what Matt said about the different apps. My mantra these days has been retention. Once the different apps, and actually one of the most exciting apps, I guess you could even say, is Communities itself, is a sort of an app that we can all focus on almost together. And I'd love to see a lot more focus on that, because I think it can bring in people that are already capable, that have shown that they're capable in other areas of the internet of creating communities, and tell them that they have an opportunity to build a community on Steem. Now, why would they want to do that here versus where they're maybe already doing it? Or there's in various communities around the internet, there's, inside the community, there's several people that are capable of building it. So maybe someone comes over to Steem, but why would they do that? Because they have the opportunity to create this kind of direct connection with the people that subscribe to the community. And Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, it's always an indirect connection. So what we have on Steem is pretty awesome. Even with just following different users, you make a direct connection, which doesn't exist on all those other places. You're going through YouTube, through Facebook, through Patreon. So at any moment, they can say, you're done, you're out, you're gone, and all of your connections are gone. They're severed because they were never really yours. And the same thing happens in community, right? They can follow that community and no one can sever that, unless I guess all the witnesses here for some reason do that, but we're committed to not doing that, right? So you could give them that assurance, and that really appeals to people that know how to build communities. We maybe don't have, we have a lot of people that love what we're doing here on Steem, but we don't have the people that are really good at building communities of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people to get together. Those Reddits with millions, or Facebook groups with tens of thousands of people. Those people exist out there, and I've talked to some of them. They love this concept of something that's not dependent on on a website or a company, not like, Steam Peak or Steam. They're like, if we were to become evil, they could go somewhere else and there's another interface and all their connections and all of their content is still there. People would gladly leave Facebook, for example, to another interface that had all those connections and content there. So we're saying, hey, we're building something here. Here's a great place to come build your community that you know how to build. So bringing those people over there, bringing them to these places. But also back to the first point, when we see that there's a good level of retention, then some really good marketing. If there's not a lot of retention, then I'm not entirely sure how good pouring everything into marketing is if it's kind of a sieve. But we focus on what's going to keep them around, figure that out, and then push it hard once we've got figured out. And every app is going to be, have that similar thing, right? You're figuring that out on Splinterlands. What's going to keep people there, and then once you figure it out, then push the marketing to get everyone there because they're going to stay.
Other folks, Marky, Cervantes.
Yes, Pablo here, Cervantes here. I think there is a good thing and a bad thing about diversity of applications. So on the one side, we see it is good that we have a lot of parallel UIs and parallel applications to query the blockchain. Some of them, they have similar use cases. Let's say, for example, Steam Peak has a similar use case than Steamy.com. Some of them, they have got completely different use cases. For example, Splinterlands or Next Colony, there are games with different use cases. They're all using the Steam. And diversity is good. On the other side, what I see is this diversity. It's creating it's also creating a lot of also diversity in where the people are focusing in. I mean, if you talk about marketing, you talk about user onboarding. It's difficult to say. Okay, we don't really have a killer app where every newspaper is talking about. And at the end, what you see is the interface, and Steam is not an interface. Steam is a technology. How can you market a blockchain? Normally, you market an application, an interface, a logo. And where are we putting as a community the effort in? Where are we putting let's say, for example, the SP's funding or foundation funding to put it? Which logo are we promoting? I think. On that case, every app, every company on top is left on their own hand, which is good. But it's at the other side, it's difficult. It's difficult to really make a joint community effort because there is no one community focusing on one app. So that's one point. That's perhaps where SMTs or tokens, sidechains token will help because it will allow you to create a parallel token to tokenize and to give some other kind of incentivization. But then you come to the second problem is how can you make value? How can you create a token which actually have a real value out there, which is not Steam. It's not going to be easy to just create a photo token, and this photo token to have really a value and get listed into exchange so that you can really have some value out of the incentives out of that. So I think it's an interesting thing, but we still need to see how it goes and how really what is going to be the killer application or the killer applications that will really make the jump into the mass media. I'll say.
Other folks, maybe Howell is left. Frederica, maybe.
Can you still hear me well?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, great. Now, I think one of the main things we need to do is to start involving the communities that Jarvi talked about in the actual testing of things. In the Lean Startup, there's this saying that there's no facts in the building, so get the hell out, which basically is a message to engineers and entrepreneurs that you can sit in your office and guess what the users want and come up with good ideas and roadmaps and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't mean anything unless you verified with a potential customer, client, or user that it solves a problem, satisfies a need, or is something that they want to use. Which is why I tried to ask a bit earlier about whether or not Steemit had been having hands-on experiences with larger websites about whether or not they would be using or implementing or what they would need from SMTs and communities. So I know it might sound a bit controversial, but I actually don't think that the Steem community itself is the best place to go for advice, because we're all very attached to Steem. We already know Steem. We don't have the first impression anymore. We are kind of biased in that we wanted to work and to win in all the good ways, but also which means that we're not the best to give that kind of feedback. So I would love to see just more activity, and this is something that really would be up there on the top of the list as a SPS type of initiative, to really just have someone spend all their time getting good communities out there to try set up a community on Steem, have a transparent effort in terms of saying what would they want if they could own their own community, own their own platform. I mean, it's a fantastic idea, but it needs to be developed and done with the people that we actually want to use it, and not just us sitting here and spending I don't know how many years now trying to guess what people want and then just hoping that they will come when we then have it ready.
On top of that, I would add that we also need to provide incentives to actually join and create a community. When you think about it, communities, I know we dislike the analogy to Reddit subreddits, but when you think about it, it's a bit like a subreddit, but without all of the cool content. So I'd like to see incentives to actually get people to share the content outside of Steem, because right now there is a very strong incentive to share stuff inside of Steem and never get out of it, because you want to get upvotes and outside people don't give you upvotes. So I'd like to see an ad system where the ads revenue basically gets shared between the community members. That way you actually want to get your community to succeed and thrive outside of Steem rather than just inside of it. And it's a win-win situation, because the community members get to see their communities thrive, and the actual Steem network gets to see more people come in. So yeah, that's one of my top things I would like to see on the community roadmap.
Thank you, Howell. I guess when I've heard a lot about applications, and Steem really does feel to me, and this is aggro, it feels to me like applications are the key to Steem's future. Dan Hentz, who I like and follow on Twitter, was sharing that Bitcoin has really nailed down that we're digital gold, and then Ethereum has really done well for DeFi. And then when you look at state of the dApps, you can find some of the best apps that are forming or the most populated ones. A lot of them come out of nowhere for Steem. You find Holy Bread. Holy Bread gets, here are all these apps that have been around for 2 years, and Holy Bread is on Steem for like a week and has 1,200 users in a single day, which is more than most of the other apps. So it seems like this chain can be really well poised for applications. And I guess when I think about that, and I think about SMTs, and I think about tokens and tribes and Steem Engine, the number one question I get is, what gives these things value? Or how do they have utility? How do we give them value? And that to me is the central question that I want to solve. And that's why I'm trying to make it so that you can buy and sell products. So you can make an NFT, it represents a digital collectible art, and now you could sell it. And if you have a tribe token, you could then sell it and accept Palcoin. So let's go say one of the moderators, I would pick on Peachy Mod. She's a wonderful artist. She makes a series. She donates that series to PAL so that we can sell it, so that we could do things. And now all the PAL that you're earning isn't just there to help you earn more PAL. Now it's actually backed by the ability to put together a listing. Now it's backed by the ability to buy and sell a physical good or a digital good, or maybe some kind of financial thing or something to do with pets. Or, I'm trying to think about, how do I make a decentralized Craigslist? How do I make a decentralized Amazon? How do I make a decentralized Fiverr? What do we need? We need a back end with lots of products or lots of data, and we need lots of different ways that front ends can be created. So like another example of this would be, I want to go help musicians. So maybe we can go store music, and then you buy an NFT that represents permission to go play that music. So whether it's, just unlocking an MP3 or unlocking, some kind of streaming media where, if I own that NFT, now I can go watch that stream, or I could listen to that stream. And it seems like that would give us there's a lot of applications that can come from just having NFTs and giving people access to data and access to tools. So trying to figure out how we can. I want to see people build markets. Again, I think markets are the most successful companies in the world. So I want to build a platform to help people build their own market, and we'll see how that goes. And I guess if we can tie the vision here is really tying social media and blogging with micropayments, so that I can come back to those companies and say, hey, look, I've written 10 articles, they've gotten 5,000 views, and you have rewarded me with a whole bunch of tokens and points. I'm going to go spend those now to get actual coffee. And you have gotten customers, I have gotten an audience, so now people look at me as kind of the coffee guru. So if you want to know the best place in Pennsylvania to go to coffee, everybody comes to me. Because of that blogging. So I'm gaining some influence. I'm also getting micropayments, and I can go cash those in for physical goods. And then ideally what happens is that people see that these things have utility, and they say, there's a lot of Splinterlands players. We're happy to go accept dark energy crystals for coffee, and we're happy to accept Palcoin. And, Palcoin and, or maybe some of these other businesses realize that a lot of their customers are coffee drinkers. So they say, yeah, we'll accept your token. We'd be happy to have that. And then we have sort of this really robust ecosystem where all of these products are backed by goods and services. And I think that would make all the tokens here and the businesses here go from novelty items of which you just want to collect more of them for the sake of collecting more of them to, holy crap, I can get a lot of stuff with this. This is really useful. And I think that would drive demand. And so that's a sort of vision of that I'm coming to. So it's sort of like I guess my final thought there would be in sales, if you want people to do something, you have to make it as easy as possible for them to do it. So my hope would be for the people listing goods and services, we make it really easy to list. And then for the people that want to build business around hey, we have all these people listing their business, maybe we can build a decentralized Yelp and say that they just tap into the API and they can display stuff so that now you have a distributed or decentralized Yelp. And they pull that data from a common backend. So that's how I envision us sort of making those apps. I know that's a little focused on my own project, but I think that ties into what all these other folks have been saying of let's get more applications here. Let's get people building things and putting it out. It's going to be the apps that drive this. I'm trying to build a platform to let people build those marketplace applications. Okay, so we have maybe 15 minutes left. I'm constantly thinking about what happens next, right? So communities is front end, so that's not really back end blockchain stuff. The SMTs are certainly next in line for the next hard fork. Matt shared once on here that we might even be feature complete on the back end. Are there still things, if you take your crystal ball and look down a year from now, are there things that this blockchain still needs to be able to do? What do we need at a blockchain level that we don't currently have? So if anybody wants to tackle that question, I see Frederica typing. Maybe he'll talk too.
Well, I think it's a little bit hard to say for sure before we've had SMTs and really have a fair picture of how Steem with SMTs will look. But I feel that it's already very complicated. And when it's easy now when you think of Steem power and it's this term that, oh, it's just really Steem that's locked to your account. But I still remember arriving at Steem and looking around on all these things and not knowing exactly if I should pursue Steem or Steem back dollars or Steem power and what it was. And the best access I still that was around for explaining it was to YouTube it, and you would find Jerry Banfield explaining the whole thing. And then with SMTs being here, I can just picture it being even more confusing. So I would hope that a year from now, we've managed to outsource a lot of the proof of brain and the things associated with that to SMTs, and that Steem itself is something much, much, much simpler, where you basically just get these tokens, hold it in your wallet, and then you can either lock them or unlock them and perform actions that you need to do to participate in communities and SMTs that may lock your Steem, but where there's no concept of Steem power, which I think is, I can't see that those two words existing in a top tier cryptocurrency. The concepts like powering up and powering down, I don't think they should even be here. So I think a lot of simplicity in terms of just making it easy, because it's gonna be a lot of things when you have so many tokens on top of what we got now. We're talking about onboarding, and one of the biggest obstacles to onboarding is always and will always be the learning curve, and we already have a very steep learning curve.
All right. Other folks want to chime in on if there are other things that we'll need sort of at a blockchain level. I'm hearing simplicity. What else? Doesn't seem like anybody wants to answer that. Yeah, I guess are there, I mean, I'm still sort of stuck on this. I can't get around this. What do you envision a year from now that the blockchain needs? Are we feature complete? Is Matt right? Or is there?
I think it should be a bit more neutral. If I'm right, then Frederica talked about this a bit. When you use Steem, you mainly use it because, I mean, you can also use it for Splinterlands, but most people in the past used it for voting and upvoting. And right now, with the drama around downvotes and upvotes, even though they're part of the system, and for the reward pool to truly function, we need both upvotes and downvotes. I do think that they create too much of a negativity around Steem, or too much of an opinionated framework. As a developer, I want to choose a blockchain which is secure. I mean, a blockchain is nothing else than a tech stack. It's nothing else than saying, okay, I want to choose DynamoDB, or I want to choose MongoDB, or I want to choose Postgres. For anyone who doesn't know what this is, those are just different databases. And the same should be said about Steem or Ethereum or EOS. So when I'm a developer, I want to choose a blockchain which is secure, where I know, okay, my data which is stored on there is secure. I don't have to do anything around it. I mean, I can build second-layer solutions, or maybe I can build a multi-chain application, but it's very important that chain is secure. Everything which is threatening the security is bad in the end, because we want to cater to a lot of people or to any. That means the main chain should be as unopinionated as possible, and everybody should feel free to have their own rules. If somebody says I don't want downvotes on my chain, then that should be okay, and they should also be incentivized to, even though they might not want to participate in the voting. Maybe they just want to have resource credits, or they just want to earn some staking. So yeah, I mean, for example, Power Down is a good name because I'm familiar with it, but everybody who's familiar with crypto knows probably staking and unstaking. And I'm actually quite glad that you, Agrod, and Matt decided to go with staking and unstaking for the tokens on Steem Engine, because it's more easy to get familiar with it. Yeah, my thoughts.
I think on my side, on my side, I think we as a community and also as witness in some point in the future after SMTs, I would say SMTs plus 1 year, we will be confronted with the decision to get or not get rid of proof of brain on Steem, in terms of on a Steem token. Do we want to do that? Do we want to convert Steem into just the utility token to power the Steem network in terms of powering on being able to stake Steem only for the sake of having resource credits and being able to do other operations on chain, and let the SMTs power the proof of brain on top of communities? I think there is a lot of people which are fighting or which are talking about that, and I think that will be a big discussion, because I said before, if you get rid of proof of brain on Steem, you are getting rid of the main widely used use case now on Steem, which is, let's say, right, voting, commenting, and so on. Being rewarded in Steem, which is for the time being the only real value token. So, but we have the problem of inflation. So we have compared to other blockchains a very high inflation. So reducing the inflation to let's say 2-3%, yearly inflation will be a consequence of that, which is not bad in terms of value. But of course, we need to do that if we have some alternative, and if people know there is other tokens that are worth to being paid in, let's say, when using them for writing content in other communities. So that's my view. Simplification of Steem in terms of getting rid of proof of brain and empowering other communities with other SMTs and other apps.
I'll go now. I really love this, hearing about like the simplification of these things, finding intuitive words for a lot of the different things. Maybe asking people that don't use Steem, like, what do you think when you hear this word? What do you think it means? Seeing what we can find out is the most intuitive, not just what I guess sounds the coolest. But also there's another topic that I think we don't talk about as much for the upcoming hard fork. I actually don't even know if it's still projected, but will help apps, because we're saying, oh yeah, we're perfectly situated to help all these apps. But I think there's one thing that will really, really help, and I know it's something that several apps have expressed a lot of interest is the resource pool for, I'm not exactly sure how to, but the fact that like
delegation pools,
Splinterlands or delegation pool, that Splinterlands or Steem Peak can use our resource credits to help our users. And I think if there's apps like that, then they don't have to worry about like, we have to train all of our users on how to power up and explain what power up does and why do I have to spend money, to do that. while the apps like ours are willing to do that, like we want them to have a good Splinter Lands doesn't want to have to, they're just like, we'll help out the users. So I'd love to hear where we are on that. Is it happening in the next hard fork, and is it going to work like I hope it is?
Justin could chime in. My understanding is that that is supposed to be in the next hard fork. So.
Sorry, I was kind of half listening there. I was in a heated discussion in the chat about
RC delegation pools. Are they part of this next hard fork?
Oh yes, RC delegation pools are absolutely part of the spec for SMTs. They're required for SMTs to work correctly. So yeah, that's done and that's in there. That was actually one of the first things that we knocked out for SMTs. So yes.
Anything in particular we need to know about how it's going to work? Anything unique about it for us applications that are going to want to use that? For people making applications?
Right. So in other words, for alternative purposes other than just providing functionality for SMTs themselves. I don't think there's anything in particular. It pretty much will work how you would expect, similar to how SP delegation currently works, but with RCs.
But
I have a question about that, about how quickly can Adapt grant a resource credits to a user and then take it back. And the reason I'm asking that is because you've heard a lot of people say that, well, if it takes 20 SP to use Steem properly, roughly, and assuming there will be 400,000 Steem, let's just assume that in a few years, then we can only sustain 20 million users. But of course, most social media don't have people using the platform all the time. Some people just come by to post once a week or every now and then. So what I'm trying to understand is to what extent an app or a community that owns 50,000 Steem could effectively just grant resources on demand to users in a way that they don't even have to think about it. So when someone makes an action that needs resources, they just get it and it comes quickly and then goes away again when it can go away.
So yeah, that is one of the main differences actually between like SP delegation and RC delegation is that they are pools. So that means you can like over delegate. You can put a bunch of people in a pool and use a certain amount of RCs for all of those people. And most likely those people won't use up all of the RCs that you've delegated. Like right now it's kind of a waste because, so for example, from Steemit's perspective, we delegate 15 SP to users just so that they can actually do a normal amount of transactions. And that's kind of a waste because the large majority of those people aren't actually using those RCs. But with RC delegation pools, we can just assign an amount for a large, extremely large number of people. And, unless they actually hit that limit, which is highly unlikely, there won't be any issues with that. So that is a big major difference between RC delegation and SP delegation, for sure.
Can you limit the amount of RCs that an individual user in the pool can have access to? So like one person that goes crazy can't use up the entire pool?
I'm not entirely sure on that. I believe we did design it that way, but I'm not entirely sure, so I don't want to say that without being sure of that.
If there's some document or information about how this all works, that would be great to see.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things we're working on right now is SMT documentation. I'm sure RC delegation is part of that documentation. At least a limited set of documentation to be available upon release, because that's pretty necessary. Everyone needs to know how to use this stuff too.
All right, we have 50 seconds left, so I'm going to go do a little outro here. I'd like to go thank the Steemit team of Eli and Jarkey and Justin for joining us. Thank you for sharing your perspective on communities as well as SMTs and just most recently the RC delegation pools. That all sounds quite promising. I'd like to thank the other top 20 witnesses that are here that have joined us: Frederica, Jarvi, Marky, Cervantes, Real Wolf, and Yabamat. You have been listening to the Steem Witness Forum. I am your host, Agrode. Thank you for having joined us. Thank you for having listened on MSP Waves. Thanks for riding those waves. And up next is Carrie Allen. And so enjoy that show. Thanks, guys. Glad to have you here. That's it. Thanks so much.
Imagine a trading card game